Welcome back to the EMT Spot's Blood Pressure Podcast. I'm Samuel Harrison.
And I'm Olivia Harper.
You know, today we're going to be diving deep into something that might surprise some people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the connection between spices and blood pressure.
Interesting.
Yeah. You know how we're always told to watch our salt intake?
Right.
Well, it turns out those little jars in our spice rack could be our secret weapons for flavor A&D heart health.
It's true. We tend to think of spices as just flavor enhancers.
Right.
But they can actually have a pretty remarkable range of health benefits.
Yeah.
And some research even suggests that certain spices could actually help lower blood pressure.
Okay, so let's break this down.
Okay.
We all know that high blood pressure is a serious issue.
Yeah.
It's a major risk factor for stroke and heart disease.
Right. And while medication is crucial if your doctor has prescribed it,
Of course.
there are also some simpler lifestyle changes that can make a real difference.
Okay.
And incorporating certain spices into your diet might be one of them.
So we're talking about adding a dash of cinnamon to our oatmeal or a sprinkle of turmeric to our smoothies.
Exactly. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition
Wow.
found that incorporating spices like cinnamon, turmeric, and oregano into meals
Really?
led to lower blood pressure readings
Wow.
just 24 hours later.
That's impressive.
Pretty impressive for just adding a bit of flavor, wouldn't you say?
That is a fascinating finding.
Yeah.
And it kind of raises some questions.
Okay.
How do these spices work their magic? Are they like tiny ninjas fighting off high blood pressure?
Well, maybe not ninjas.
Okay.
But they do have some pretty powerful mechanisms at play.
Uh-huh.
One key way they might help is by reducing inflammation.
Inflammation. I
Yeah.
thought this was something that happened when you like injure yourself.
It is, but chronic inflammation,
Oh.
the kind that lingers over time,
Right.
is linked to all sorts of health problems, including hypertension.
So how spices combat this chronic inflammation?
So many spices are packed with antioxidants.
Right.
You know, those amazing compounds that fight harmful free radicals in the body?
Yeah.
Free radicals are essentially unstable molecules that can damage cells and contribute to inflammation.
So antioxidants are like bodyguards, protecting our cells from those troublemaking free radicals.
Precisely. And some spices are particularly potent when it comes to fighting inflammation.
Okay.
Turmeric and ginger, for example,
Yeah.
are both known for their powerful anti-inflammatory properties, especially turmeric with its active compound, curcumin.
Turmeric, the golden child of the spice world. So fighting inflammation is one way spices can help with blood pressure.
Right.
What else?
Another way spices might help is by improving insulin sensitivity.
Can you remind me what insulin sensitivity is?
Insulin sensitivity refers to how well your body responds to insulin, the hormone that regulates blood sugar levels.
Okay, right. So if your insulin sensitivity is low,
Yeah.
your body has to work harder to process sugar.
Exactly. And that can lead to a whole cascade of issues,
Yeah.
including an increased risk of developing hypertension.
Right.
But some spices, like
Right.
cinnamon and turmeric, have been shown to positively impact insulin sensitivity.
Cinnamon. I always thought of it as more of a sweet treat kind of spice.
It is delicious in sweet treats.
Yeah.
But it's also a powerhouse when it comes to health. Studies show that cinnamon can enhance glucose uptake by cells,
Okay.
which is especially helpful for people with type 2 diabetes.
So it's helping the body use sugar more efficiently.
Exactly. And turmeric's positive effects on insulin sensitivity
Right.
are thought to be linked to its anti-inflammatory properties
Right.
and its potential to improve the function of insulin-producing cells in the pancreas.
Interesting. So we've got anti-inflammation and improved insulin sensitivity.
Yeah.
Are there any other ways spices might benefit blood pressure?
Absolutely. This one might seem obvious,
Okay.
but spices can actually help reduce sodium intake.
Sodium, the arch nemesis of healthy blood pressure. So we're trading the salt shaker for the spice rack.
That's the idea. Many spices have such intense flavors that they can make your food sing
Yeah,
without needing extra sodium.
I like that.
Celery seed, for instance,
Okay.
has a naturally salty flavor that works wonders in soups and stews.
Really?
And you can also use garlic and onion powder,
Okay.
which both have a bit of a salty kick to add depth to your dishes without reaching for the salt.
These are some great tips. I'm already feeling inspired to like up my spice game.
Good.
We've been talking about spices in general,
Yeah,
but are there any specific spices that are particularly good for blood pressure?
you bet. Let's dive into a spice spotlight.
Okay.
Starting with garlic.
Ah, garlic, the king of flavor.
Yeah.
It's got to be in at least half of my recipes.
It's a culinary staple for a reason.
Right.
When it comes to blood pressure, garlic's magic is attributed to a compound called allicin.
Allicin, what does that do?
Allicin is what gives garlic its pungent aroma and taste.
Okay.
And it also happens to be a powerful vasodilator.
Vasodilator. Fancy word alert. Break that down for me.
A vasodilator relaxes and widens blood vessels.
Okay.
Specifically arteries in this case.
Uh-huh.
This allows blood to flow more easily,
Okay.
reducing resistance and therefore lowering blood pressure.
Ah, so it's creating more space for the blood to move through.
Exactly. And to make things even better,
Okay.
garlic may also help reduce inflammation and improve cholesterol levels, which
Yeah.
are both good news for overall heart health.
Wow, garlic really is a multi-talented spice.
It is.
Okay, who's next in our spice spotlight?
Let's move on to cinnamon.
Cinnamon. We talked about it earlier in relation to insulin sensitivity.
Yeah.
What else can this sweet spice do?
Well, we know that cinnamon can help improve insulin sensitivity,
Yeah.
which can be especially beneficial for people with diabetes or at risk of developing it.
Right.
But it also seems to have a direct effect on blood pressure,
Really?
specifically in lowering uncontrolled systolic blood pressure.
Right.
The top number in a blood pressure reading.
So cinnamon is particularly helpful for people whose systolic blood pressure is running a bit high.
That's right.
That's good to know. Cinnamon is already a staple in my pantry,
Good.
but now I'm even more motivated to use it.
Yeah.
Who's next on our list of blood pressure busting spices?
Up next, we have turmeric.
Turmeric, I knew it. I'm telling you, this spice is having a major moment.
And deservedly so.
Right.
We already talked about its anti-inflammatory properties thanks to curcumin,
Yeah.
but it's worth reiterating just how powerful this compound can be.
Mm.
Curcumin is believed to help reduce overall inflammation in the body,
Right.
which, as we've discussed, can have a positive impact on blood pressure.
Yeah.
Some studies even suggest that taking turmeric for an extended period
Oh,
might help lower systolic blood pressure.
that's interesting.
However, more research is needed to confirm this
Okay.
and to figure out the optimal dosages and durations.
Sounds promising, though.
It does.
So turmeric is one to keep an eye on. All right, what other spices are we spotlighting today?
Let's talk about ginger next.
Ginger, another one of my favorites. I love it in stir-fries, teas, and even desserts.
It's incredibly versatile.
It is.
And it might have some interesting effects on blood pressure.
Oh, really?
Ginger is thought to work by blocking calcium channels and dilating blood vessels.
Hold on, calcium channels. What do those have to do with blood pressure?
Good question. Calcium plays a role in muscle contraction,
Mm-hmm.
including the contraction of blood vessels.
Okay.
So by blocking calcium channels, ginger might help prevent blood vessels from constricting too much, which can help lower blood pressure.
Ah, so it's like keeping those blood vessels nice and relaxed.
Yeah.
And by dilating those blood vessels, ginger is essentially creating more space for blood to flow,
Right.
which further contributes to lowering blood pressure naturally.
Exactly.
Okay, ginger's sounding more and more like a blood pressure superhero with all these different mechanisms at play.
Mm-hmm.
All right, who's our last spice superstar?
Last but certainly not least, we have fenugreek.
Fenugreek. I'll admit this one is not as familiar to me. What's the scoop on this spice?
Fenugreek seeds and leaves are a good source of soluble fiber,
Okay.
which is known for its cholesterol-lowering effects.
Cholesterol and blood pressure, are they connected?
They are indeed. High cholesterol can contribute to the buildup of plaque in your arteries,
Right.
which can restrict blood flow and lead to high blood pressure.
Yeah.
So by helping to lower cholesterol,
Right.
fenugreek is indirectly supporting healthy blood pressure as well.
And high-fiber diets, in general, have been linked to more stable blood pressure levels.
Yes.
Plus, fenugreek seeds and leaves are naturally low in sodium,
Right.
which, as we discussed earlier, is a big plus when it comes to managing blood pressure.
It is.
Fenugreek is officially on my list of spices to explore. So we've covered a lot of ground here,
We have.
talked about the science behind spices and blood pressure,
Yes.
and even highlighted some specific spices that are real standouts. Yep. But now I'm curious, how can we actually incorporate more of these amazing spices into our daily lives?
That's a great question. The good news is that adding more spice to your life is easier than you might think.
I'm all ears. Give me some tips.
First and foremost, remember that experimentation is key.
Okay.
Don't be afraid to try different spice combinations and flavors to find what you like best.
I love that. Cooking should be fun and adventurous,
Yes.
not a rigid set of rules.
Exactly. And remember that spices aren't just for savory dishes.
Right.
You can incorporate them into sweet treats as well.
Okay.
For example, you could try adding a pinch of cinnamon to your oatmeal in the morning,
Mm.
or blending some ginger into a smoothie.
Yeah,
The possibilities are truly endless.
they are.
And when you're experimenting,
Yep.
Don't be afraid to play around with both dried and fresh spices.
Okay.
Dried spices tend to have a more concentrated flavor and a longer shelf life.
Right.
While fresh spices offer a more vibrant flavor, but need to be used up more quickly.
That's helpful to know.
Ew.
I always wondered about the difference between dried and fresh. And finally, remember to start small and gradually increase the amount of spice you use.
Yes. Good advice.
This will help you gauge your tolerance and find the perfect amount for your taste buds.
Exactly. And most importantly, have fun with it.
Yeah.
Adding more spice to your life should be an enjoyable experience.
I couldn't agree more.
Speaking of enjoying the experience, have you ever noticed how some spices seem to have a warming effect? Almost like they're raising your internal temperature.
You know, I have.
Yeah.
Like when I add ginger to my tea, I can feel a warmth spreading through my body.
Right.
Is there any science behind that?
There is.
Really?
Some spices, like ginger and cinnamon, can increase thermogenesis,
Thermogenesis.
the process of heat production in the body.
Okay.
This can lead to a temporary increase in metabolism and a feeling of warmth.
So it's not just my imagination. I'm actually burning a few extra calories with that spicy ginger tea.
It's possible. While the effect might be subtle,
Yeah.
it's another interesting aspect of how spices interact with our bodies.
This is all so fascinating. It's amazing to think that something as simple as adding a pinch of spice to our food
I know, right?
can have such a significant impact on our health.
Absolutely. It really highlights the power of nature
Yeah.
and the potential of food as medicine.
Food is medicine. I like that.
But remember,
Yeah.
like with any dietary change,
Right?
it's essential to listen to your body and
Ah.
pay attention to how you feel.
Makes sense.
What works for one person might not work for another.
That's a great point. So if someone is considering incorporating more spices into their diet
Yeah.
to help manage their blood pressure, what advice would you give them?
I would say start slowly and gradually increase the amount of spice you use.
Okay.
This will give your body time to adjust and help you avoid any potential digestive upset.
Right.
And of course, it's always a good idea to talk to your doctor before making any significant changes to your diet,
Right.
especially if you're taking medication.
Speaking of doctors, should people be concerned about potential interactions between spices and medications?
That's a valid concern.
Okay.
Some spices can interact with certain medications. For example, turmeric can thin the blood,
Oh, wow.
so it might not be a good idea to take it if you're already on blood thinners.
Right.
And some spices, like garlic, can lower blood sugar.
Okay.
So if you're taking medication for diabetes,
Right.
you'll want to talk to your doctor about how spices might affect your blood sugar levels.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's always better to err on the side of caution.
Those are really important reminders. We should always be mindful of how our food choices can interact with our overall health and any medications we might be taking.
Exactly. And while we focused on the potential blood pressure lowering effects of spices,
Right.
it's worth noting that they offer a wide range of other health benefits as well.
Like what? Tell me more.
Well, many spices are rich in antioxidants, which can help protect our cells from damage caused by free radicals.
Huh?
This can have a positive impact on overall health and may even help reduce the risk of certain chronic diseases.
So it's not just about blood pressure.
No.
It's about supporting overall wellness.
Precisely. Spices are like little bundles of natural goodness,
Yeah.
packed with vitamins, minerals, and other beneficial compounds.
I'm sold. I'm officially a spice convert.
Good.
But before we all rush out to stock up our spice racks,
Yes.
what are some practical tips for incorporating more spices into our daily lives?
That's a great question. One of the easiest ways is to start experimenting with different spice blends.
Okay.
There are so many pre-made blends available at grocery stores.
Right.
Or you can create your own custom blends at home.
Oh, fun.
It's a fun way to explore new flavors and find what you like best.
I love that idea. It's like creating your own culinary adventure.
And don't be afraid to think outside the box. Spices aren't just for savory dishes.
Right, yeah.
You can add them to smoothies, yogurt, oatmeal, even baked goods.
Interesting.
For example, a pinch of cinnamon can add a warm, comforting flavor to your morning oatmeal,
Yeah.
while a dash of ginger can brighten up a fruit salad.
Those are great ideas. It sounds like the possibilities are endless when it comes to using spices.
They really are. And the best part is that adding more spices to your diet doesn't have to be complicated or time-consuming.
Right.
You can start by simply sprinkling your favorite spices on your meals or adding them to your cooking.
So no need to be a master chef to reap the benefits of spices.
Not at all. Even small changes can make a big difference.
Right, like that.
And over time, as you become more comfortable with using spices,
Yeah.
you can start to get more creative and experimental in the kitchen.
Okay. I'm feeling inspired. I'm ready to ditch the salt shaker and embrace the spice rack.
Good for you.
But before we wrap up,
yes,
is there anything else you want to leave our listeners with?
I think the most important message is to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Exploring the world of spices should be an enjoyable experience.
Right.
Don't be afraid to try new things, experiment with different flavors, and find what works best for you.
Yeah.
Your taste buds and your blood pressure will thank you for it.
I couldn't agree more. It's pretty amazing how just adding some spice to your food can be so good for you.
It really is. Like, we've gone from just thinking of them as like flavor enhancers to thinking of them as potential allies in our quest for better health.
Exactly. We've learned about their anti-inflammatory properties, their ability to improve insulin sensitivity, and even their potential to help us reduce our sodium intake.
Right. And let's not forget about those fascinating vasodilatory effects, widening those blood vessels and promoting healthy blood flow.
It really is amazing how much power these tiny little spices pack.
Yeah.
But I think it's also important to remember that spices aren't a magic bullet.
Absolutely. They're not going to cure high blood pressure overnight.
Right. But they can be a valuable part of a holistic approach to managing blood pressure.
Right.
Alongside medication if it's prescribed.
Yeah.
And other lifestyle changes like exercise and stress management.
Precisely. And as we've discussed, it's important to remember that everyone is different.
Yeah.
What works for one person might not work for another.
Right. So it's always best to talk to your doctor before making any significant changes to your diet.
Absolutely. They can help you create a plan that's safe and effective for you.
Right.
Taking into account your individual health history and any medications you might be taking.
That makes sense. This has been a really insightful and flavorful journey.
It has.
I feel like I've gained a whole new appreciation for the power of spices.
I'm glad to hear that. And I hope our listeners feel empowered to explore the world of spices and discover the many benefits they have to offer.
I have no doubt they will. So on that note, we want to thank you for joining us on this spicy adventure.
We hope you've learned something new and feel inspired to add more flavor to your life, not just for your taste buds, but for your overall well-being.
Absolutely. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of spices and blood pressure, don't forget to subscribe to the TheEMTSpot's Blood Pressure Podcast.
We're here every week with fascinating insights and practical tips to help you manage your blood pressure and live a healthier, happier life.
We also love hearing from our listeners. So feel free to leave a comment or send us an email if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes.
Until next time, I'm Olivia Harper.
And I'm Samuel Harrison. Stay spicy, everyone.